You know, when you read Deuteronomy 28, it's so easy to see it as this simple formula, right? Obey God and you get blessed. Disobey and you get cursed. It seems so straightforward. But what if that's just scratching the surface? Okay, let's really dive into this, because I think hidden inside this ancient text is this incredible story about a perfect promise, an impossible condition, and a resolution that honestly changes everything. So here's the big question we're tackling today. Is this chapter really a straightforward recipe for a successful, prosperous life? You know, if you just follow the rules, will everything just magically fall into place? That's what we're going to dig into, because the text itself seems to be pointing to something much, much deeper. And look, to be fair on one level, this chapter absolutely lays out a blue point, no doubt about it. It's this compelling vision for what a nation in perfect harmony with its creator could look like, a picture of total, all-encompassing flourishing. So here's our roadmap for unpacking what I'm calling the covenant paradox. First, we'll look at the perfect promise. Then we're going to zoom in on the impossible condition, kind of like reading the fine print. We'll see how that sets up a prophecy of failure, which then, amazingly, points us toward the covenant's resolution. And finally, we'll talk about what it actually means for us to be living the blessing today. All right, first up, the perfect promise. And I gotta tell you, we're not just talking about a little extra luck here. This was a blueprint for an entire nation to be completely and utterly saturated in divine favor. What's so wild is just how comprehensive this promise was. These blessings weren't just some vague spiritual ideas. They were meant to cover every single area of life. Your geography, in the city and the field. Your family, your economy. I mean, right down to the food in your basket and your bowl. Even your daily movements, your coming and your going. Your national security. The vision was for your entire identity as a holy people to be marked by this flourishing. It was a picture of complete 360-degree well-being. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? Every promise has a condition. And this is where the whole paradox really kicks in. It all hangs on one tiny little word, if. If you obey. But what does obey actually mean in this context? Well, it's a lot heavier than we usually think. So, the first Hebrew word for obey here is shema. And this isn't just about sound waves hitting your eardrum. It means to listen deeply with your full attention and with the immediate intent to respond. It's relational listening, not just mechanically checking off a box on a to-do list. And then it builds from there. The second word they use is shamar. This means to guard, to watch over, to actively preserve something precious, like you're guarding a sacred trust. So obedience isn't a passive, yeah, I agree with that. It's this constant, active, intentional vigilance over the relationship itself. And here's the real kicker. When the text says, if you fully obey, the original Hebrew actually repeats the word for listen to intensify it. It's a phrase, im shemoa tisma. This isn't about trying really hard or just having a good day. It means a continuous, wholehearted, unbroken, and sustained state of listening loyalty. In a word, perfection. And right there, we start to see the problem, don't we? So this brings us to a really startling idea. What if this perfect system, when you apply it to imperfect people, was actually designed to reveal a fundamental flaw? Not a flaw in the system, but a flaw in us. What if it was actually a prophecy of failure? You can literally see this expectation baked right into the structure of the chapter. I mean, just look at the numbers. There are only 14 verses describing the blessings you get for perfect obedience. But then, there are 54 verses detailing all the curses for failure. The sheer lopsided weight of it all suggests that failure wasn't just a possibility. It was pretty much the expected outcome. In fact, Moses himself basically predicts this failure just a couple chapters later. He says the ultimate solution isn't going to be trying harder or having stricter laws. The real fix, he says, would require something only God could do. A total internal transformation, a circumcision of the heart. It needed nothing short of divine heart surgery. So if the condition is humanly impossible and failure is basically guaranteed, is the whole thing just a lost cause? Well, no. This is where the story takes a dramatic turn. The paradox finds its resolution not in a system, but in a person, the one who could finally fulfill the impossible condition. And this contrast table just lays it all out so clearly. The old Mosaic covenant was based on our perfect obedience, which made the blessing conditional and, let's face it, unattainable. But the new covenant? It's based on Christ's perfect obedience, which makes the blessing permanently secured. The scope explodes from just national Israel to the global church, and the location of blessing shifts from being in the land to being in Christ. And here's the stunning conclusion that ties it all together. Christ does two things. First, he lives that life of perfect, sustained, wholehearted obedience, that im shamoa tishma that no one else ever could. And second, he takes upon himself all 54 verses worth of curses that we deserved for our failure. He fulfills the condition and he absorbs the penalty. It's incredible. Okay, so what does this all mean for us? How does this radical shift change the way we actually live our lives? This last part is all about moving from that old, impossible blueprint to this new reality. Let's just be honest for a second. This cycle probably looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? We try harder to obey to earn God's favor. We inevitably fail because the standard is perfection. We feel the consequences, that distance from God, and so what do? We just resolve to try even harder next time. It's this exhausting, repeating cycle of performance. But check this out. The new covenant just flips that entire script on its head. It doesn't start with trying. It starts with believing in Christ's finished work. That belief connects us to a new life and a new heart, that heart surgery Moses was talking about. And then, from that new, transformed identity, obedience starts to flow, not as a way to get blessed, but as the natural response of who we now are. This picture from the Gospel of John just nails it. A branch doesn't strain and struggle and strive to produce an apple. It just stays connected to the vine, right? And the life from the vine naturally produces the fruit through it. Our whole focus shifts from striving to abiding. The game changes from performance to presence. So that leaves all of us with this one last question to chew on. When you think about your relationship with God, are you still living on that performance treadmill, constantly striving to earn a blessing you're terrified of losing? Or are you learning to rest, to abide, in the one who has already met every condition and secured every blessing for you?